Hi, my name is Jenaveve Jelace Slipp, Jenaveve, Jelace, Jelace, Slipp, Slipp. I am a graduate of Cal State Fullerton with a communicative disorder degree. I am a performer, singer, / theater thespian. I've been performing since I was about 2 years old, so I have a pretty intensive music background, and because of that music background I have a lot of appreciation for the voice specifically, and speech and diction and articulation and things in that nature. Previously I was a biology major. I did that for 4 years, but then I transferred over when I went to Cal State Fullerton to a communicative disorder major, and I'm so thankful for that. Not only did I do much better in school, but I have succeeded in all of the volunteer experience that I've done. I've done really well, and I've really enjoyed it. So the experiences I've had, I have volunteered at 4 different elementary schools in the Santa Ana Unified School District, more specifically at Martin Elementary School. The SOPs that I volunteered with saw a lot of different variety of ages and severities. I worked a lot with the early intervention specifically, though, program. I also volunteer with St. Jude's Hospital Communication Recovery Group, CRG for short. It's a program that they have outside of the hospital that helps people that have had a stroke and now have aphasia. It basically helps them relearn to communicate by communicating with others that are like them, and we as volunteers facilitate the communication. Currently I am teaching middle school and after school program, teaching music and acting and live performing, and I am loving it, and it's been a great experience because I'm not only working with middle schoolers, but I'm getting teaching experience. So my culturally and linguistically diverse groups that I've worked with a lot depending on the volunteer opportunities that I've experienced. First and foremost, because of the Santa Ana Unified School District, I've worked with a lot of bilingual students, specifically Spanish and English speakers. And with CRG, I work with a wide variety of ages, cultural backgrounds, ethnicities, religious groups, just because of all of the members that we have, and that experience has been really great. Specifically, we worked with my specific group. We assigned them during the holidays to go to each group and ask them what they did for the holidays, like which holiday they celebrated, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and what traditions they would do with their families, if it was culturally specific or if it was just a normal tradition. But we learned a lot about different countries and what, like some of them celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, and Hanukkah we learned a lot about in the different countries that celebrate specific traditions with Hanukkah. So that was a really interesting thing we did with CRG. I have taken a sign language class. It was a Basics to American Sign Language, and the really interesting part of the class was our teacher was severely hard of hearing, so he barely spoke to us at all. We had to learn sign language really fast that way in order to communicate with him. He basically signed us everything, and we had to sign to him in return. And he was also really great about communicating to us the deaf culture and the history of the deaf culture and the traditions that they uphold in their community as well. So with the client that would be a 4-year-old bilingual child who is very unintelligible, I have worked directly with that group, like specifically because of the early intervention program. Most of our kids are like from 2 to 4 years old, and they're bilingual, Spanish and English speaking. The way that group worked, it was normally in group sessions. They had some individual sessions, but I normally worked with the groups. And they would start with a song, and the song would be something the kids already knew because it was a song where they said hello, and they said, "Hello, how are you?" to each person, and they said their names. And the nice thing about that was it was a routine, and it helped them like say every single phoneme because of all the different types of names that they had to say. And then the SOP would read a story, and depending on the theme of the week, if it was like dependent on the holiday that it was nearby, or so on and so forth, the SOP would have them repeat aloud certain specific words that targeted specific phonemes, either the specific phonemes that would help the entire group or it helped like specific kids depending on their needs. And so we just kind of had them do it repeatedly, had them hear it so they could hear the correct pronunciation, and then we would rectify the correct articulation, telling them where to put their tongue, where to put their teeth, and so on and so forth, just so that they could help their intelligibility. Then after that, we'd have them do a craft, and the SLP would ask them specific commands, and she would then have them repeat the commands back and or answer specific questions, just to get specific pronunciations correct. And the Slippa normally would interchange some words for Spanish. The SLP would do that too, but it was a lot of the Slippa because the Slippa was bilingual, so I would hope to be bilingual one day just for that purpose. But the interchanging of the Spanish and English was really important because not only were they hearing the correct pronunciation in English, they were also hearing the correct pronunciation in Spanish. And also using the Spanish helped them understand just in case there was a misunderstanding with just the English. So the opportunities I've had with autism, I volunteered with the main school SLP at Martin Elementary School, and she saw maybe like a few times a week, maybe it was like once a week. I only observed once or twice with the children who were diagnosed with autism. And that group was really interesting because seeing the students' behavior during those sessions revealed the significance of having patience and maintaining routine, which I knew was really important, and continuing to model and reward appropriate behaviors. And that specific point was really important because it was interesting to see the SLP reward in correct ways and tell them in not too harsh ways, like what behaviors weren't correct. And so that was a really good eye-opening experience to just see it one-on-one and firsthand. And I've also taken an introduction to autism class, and that class actually helped me understand the spectrum of autism and how every kid is so different just because they can have different behavioral issues, different language issues, different social issues. And so that class really educated me about the differences of autism. And so I would hope that the things I've learned in that class will help me bring it out into the real world and be able to interact with all the different types of children that are diagnosed with autism. Now, with the CRG group, I work with people who have had strokes. That's that group, and most of them have aphasia. Some of them have dementia. There's a few people that have Parkinson's and apraxia, and they all have varying severities and such. For example, I've led a group myself where I had two very, very different guys. One had a really hard time being able to answer my questions, but he could totally understand everything I said because he had Broca's. And then my other guy, I only had two, other guy never really understood what I was saying, but he would go off on tangents. He was a super happy guy, and so the difference between the two was really hard to manage, but I learned that I had to hone them in by staying on a topic that they both understood, that they both liked in common, things and such. So that was a really good experience to kind of observe both extremes of aphasia and other things such like that. But I've really liked that group, and it's really taught me a lot. But in conclusion, I've worked with so many different types of people, ages and cultures and things like that, and I've enjoyed every single one of them. I thought I would work with kids primarily, but because I've been working with the stroke patients, it's made me know I could go anywhere. I could land anywhere. I would love it, and I would be successful in it. So, in conclusion, thank you so much for your consideration into your fine establishment, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Thank you.